talk was very interesting.
There, we are ready to go whenever you are. Just gonna hit record.
This is the April 9th, 2026 meeting of the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I'm Rick Hartwig and I am chair. We will begin today with the roll call. I am Rick Hartwig, chair, and I'm here. Alan Holland.
Present.
Chris Donaldson. Here. Mauricio Flores. Here. Sigrid Olson. Not here. Delight Walker.
Here.
Fraser Wick.
Here.
All right. We have, next item is to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Do we have any corrections, deletions, additions, or anything else to say about it? Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the minutes as published.
Okay, second.
Second motion.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we move right on to public comment. Do we have any?
Patty, that is here.
Hey, Patty.
Yeah, it won't take long. Excuse me. Couple months back, I'm Patty Tipton and I live in the Lansing neighborhood. I'm guardian for that neighborhood as far as the parks are concerned. I gave you guys $125 to plant a tree at Inglewood's 100th anniversary in March. I haven't seen the tree yet, and I was wondering if there's anybody from Salem Parks that can meet me there and call me. I can give you my cell phone number and just meet me there and take me to where the new tree is planted. And then we can take some pictures with me with the tree. That's all. Just a request. And I don't know how much time the Salem Parks people have, but I won't take that long to meet me there and tell me where the new tree is planted.
Yeah, I'll pass that on to Jennifer.
All right,
Please.
all right. Thank you very much, and thank
And
you.
do you still have my cell phone number or do you, I need to give it?
We still do. Yeah, no, we still have.
Okay, I just need to make sure.
As long as it hasn't changed since you were a board member.
It might have, I don't know. Can I give it to you anyways?
Yeah,
Please?
yeah, you. Over.
503-930-5255. And tell them it's no ASAP, but I just want to know where the tree was planted.
All right, thank you, Patty. Thank you for your dedication.
Yeah.
You're drawing down for Lansing and Livingston. Anything that happens there, I will report it to you guys. Because I drive by them both all the time.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Not seeing any other public comment. Turn it over to Jennifer, who's not here, and Rob
Yeah,
and Tammy.
yeah. I'm gonna keep it away. Tammy Stars works in engineering. She's the engineering administration manager, and she runs the city's capital improvement program. Jennifer is not here today, so I can't give you the idea. The plan for today was to give you just a high level overview of changes in the budget. Proposed city budget relates to Parks and Recreation, and she's not here, so that's gonna be difficult to do. But what I will tell you, just from a high level, there's not a ton of changes. The levy fund is established and it's kind of stabilized the funding for the services that it supports, which is the library, the senior center, and of course Parks and Recreation. And so there's not a ton of changes happening. It's pretty much the budget that was last year. And unfortunately, she's not able to make it today as a last minute thing came up. So that's the update we have for you on the proposed budget, but it's a lot of normal, just like last year.
Not knowing normal, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so is that adequate for doing what we need to do to maintain, keep the restrooms clean, right? Is this adequate? Are we doing good?
Go look me.
Yeah,
I suppose that's a matter of opinion. Parks would certainly would make, if there were more resources available, Parks would make requests to utilize more resources. So we definitely see the need for more resources to support the services we want to deliver. But there is not more revenue available to program to things like Parks and Recreation. Yeah, I think that's what I would say to that.
Okay.
But the other part of this agenda item, which is to talk about the capital improvement plan. And I have a slide deck from Tammy that I'm going to present. Tammy's here to help kind of answer questions or to fill in anything I might get wrong. I think this is particularly a great opportunity because I realize that many of the members are relatively new to the board and I may not know what the capital improvement plan is. And some of you may have a pretty good understanding of it because you've been on the board for a number of years. So we'll kind of get everyone up on a similar level of understanding, hopefully. Right, the capital improvement plan is basically a financial planning tool the city has to fund large projects that require expenditures of city funds more than $100,000. So, you know, the city has a lot of assets. We need to maintain the assets we have. We add assets. Any project that would be related to that work that's over $100,000 or more in budget would be planned for in this financial planning tool. It is a 5-year plan. That means it looks out 5 years into the future. However, we update the plan every year. So it's not that we only create this plan every 5 years, it's that we look 5 years in the future. We create the plans every single year. The purpose of the document, I've kind of gotten into this already, but we want to create transparency. That's a huge part of it, is to understand where the city is planning to use its forecasted funding into the future. And then to establish a system where we're really analyzing kind of the risk and priorities of the city and making sure that funding is going to, you know, risk or high priority items. We have very limited resources, and that's a common theme. It's not just parks. It's going to be all our services that are kind of supported that the city delivers. So it's always a process of really analyzing what's the priority, what is the money going to go to, and that is largely driven by an internal what we call CIP committee. So there is a CIP committee for parks. Tammy and I are members of that committee. Aaron behind me, who will be introduced later in the agenda, he's a member of that committee. We meet, we talk about these, we talk about what we call issues. Issues are needs that are not funded yet. And we talk about what forecasted revenues are available. And we match those two up the best we can. I'm oversimplifying it, and then there's a scoring criteria. So there's a formal process. We're looking at these projects and we're evaluating based on criteria and creating a score. This scoring process has evolved year over year. It's improving. So it's a concept that was new, I would say maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And every year it's morphing a little bit, getting more mature, a little bit better. So a little bit more going back to transparency. And so it's fun. Every year it's a little different. We're improving it as we go. And I think we'll get more into what those criteria are. We certainly could get into more on what those criteria are specifically for parks. Those criteria are not the same across other groups. So like this, if you're thinking about the CIP committee for the sewer system, they don't think about the same things parks thinks about. You know, I think it's probably very clear why. Those are substantially different city services.
So just out of curiosity, so the implementation of that scoring system is more the committee's own initiative to try to, you know, be transparent rather than a requirement from city or other regulatory authorities that say you need something along these lines?
Yeah, so I'll get into a little bit about it. It is actually required in terms of their city policy that city council has put into place that governs it. And I will also say, I mentioned it maturing, as we can find data sets that take take us out of making like a subjective decision, that is what we're seeking. We want data-driven decision making. We don't want city staff subjectively making decisions about things. Like,
Yeah,
so that's
that's why I
part of
asked-
evolving.
Because if you're changing it and evolving it based on those requirements, how that process goes to.
Yeah, I think I'll highlight in my slides maybe what the current change is, the big one this year and what's new this year. And then maybe you understand it. So
Yeah.
council is basically led that. All started with a motion that was made at the budget committee last year. So the city's citizen budget committee. There was a motion made, passed, and that led to a policy change that we're implementing this year. I'll get into that here a little bit. And there we go, I'm getting into it right now. So city council policy C9 is a policy all about the capital improvement plan. The city council policies are published on the city's website. If you ever really need something to put you to sleep at night, you can read those. I'm just gonna, you can read what's on the slide there, but the new item this year is that there is a understanding we should really be increasingly looking at operational impacts of these capital improvements. So a capital project could create a brand new skate park. That's a new thing that needs maintenance, it needs care, it needs management. Or it could be the replacement of a playground where the current playground is a huge nuisance to us because we're constantly maintaining it, investing money in it, having operations staff go out there and deal with issues. And so in some senses, a playground replacement could be a net reduction in maintenance burden for the city, if that makes sense to you. And then that we buy park property, that depending on what the park property is, could be an operational impact because we'd have to mow it if, for example, maintain the raw land once we own it. So we are working to develop a system where we're really considering operational impacts or operational impact statement. I think a thoughtful consideration of what the impacts are to the project. Now and that's great, that's what we're doing. However, I want to put a little asterisk on that. When you're at a CIP programming level, you're at a really high level. You know you have an idea of what the project is going to do. You have an idea of what the project might look like. You don't know all the details. You don't know what specific products you're going to be purchasing. There's a lot of fill-in detail that isn't there yet. So it is a rough estimation. And so as we update the park system plan, I think there's going to be some administrative review of how we can maybe have other checkpoints, other gates along like a park development process. So it's not just the CIP. The CIP is a great tool, but as you move a project toward actually constructing something like a new skate park, there's going to be several times where more detail is known, so we update our analysis. So we're more informed of what those operational impacts are when we deliver the project. And again, each stage of that review would be a chance to alter the project or to stop the project because we wouldn't be able to maintain what we're building. So that's just something to look forward to. So some highlights, I guess these are just like little statistics there. So the 5-year CIP, this is across all the city services. There's 118 projects in the book, so it's a lot. The total programmed money in the CIP is $260 million. This is a lot of money. Under funding, those are generally the funding streams that are represented in the CIP. There's 2 of those that are primarily relevant to the Parks and Recreation program. The first one is CIP, which is our SDCs. That is an acronym for System Development Charges. So when you are seeing new development occurring in the city, like a new housing development, the city is requiring a fee be paid for each new housing unit produced so that we can expand our system to support that new housing unit or the residents of that new housing unit.
What's the rate on that? How's it assessed?
It is assessed by what the housing unit, or it's assessed by what the use is. So if it's a multifamily unit, if it's a single family unit, it's going to be different. If it's a commercial business, it's going to be different. And I don't know those rates off the top of my head, but there's a fee schedule I could follow up with
I know there's one that's 6,000 something.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know which one that
Yeah,
is.
yeah, so
but-
so they're roughly around $5,000 a housing unit for parks. Roughly, I mean, within, so it's a chunk of money that's a cost of any new development.
That's just a one time paid by the developer.
It's a one-time fee, it's gonna give us a fee to access, for us to expand our system to serve that new use.
To hook up whatever needs to get, okay.
Yeah, and so that could be us investing in a local neighborhood park to serve those immediate residents, or it could be us building a new skate park that's gonna support everyone in the city, because it's like a new regional facility for everyone. So that is about $12 million a year, and I will tell you, so there's SDCs for sewer, water, transportation and parks. And so if you think about $12 million, about a quarter of that, roughly a quarter of that, it's actually less, is the park stuff. So I think I'll jump ahead, the parks this year is about 2.2 million in system development charge programmed to actual projects. The other one, obviously state grants, there's a little bit of that into parks. We've been doing pretty good lately. I actually, on another slide, I'll make a note about that, but we're really grateful from the state to be giving the city some grant funds recently to help us do more with our park projects. And then, of course, there's the 2002 Safety and Livability Bond, which is a huge influx of money into the capital improvement plan. That's part of a 10-year plan to deliver improvements that were outlined in the bond initiative. So these are just some projects just to kind of show you what's in the plan generally. So there's a very large project to cover Francis Reservoir, which is out by the city of Turner. It's a very expensive project, as you can see there. There's a utility, basically maintenance. Is that, what do you call that maintenance, Tammy?
It's
Utility
repair and rehabilitation.
repair and rehabilitate of utilities like water lines. That's a huge chunk of money. Just an example of a grant there, the Fairview Park Interpretive Space, that was a legislative gift to the city to develop a component of Fairview Park. So that's now it's going to be going in the city budget, and it's going to be going through the CIP because it's over $100,000. And then ODOT grants there, just 5 awarded last year, totaling $18.8 million. So just to give you an idea of what's in the CIP generally, it's our funds, but it's also grant funds. So the big challenge is that we're seeing revenue forecasts go down. So like as we look out in the future, we're expecting a little less money coming in. And specifically on system development charges, we reduced our target programming by $300,000 this year. So last year we were like $2.5 million were being programmed for projects per year. Now this year it's more like $2.2 million. So that's because we aren't seeing revenue coming in as strong as we had forecasted that revenue to be coming in. And Tammy, do you have anything to add to that? Did I explain that more or less okay?
Yes.
It's a complicated subject. Tammy and other budget folks at the city are watching it. And that's my simplistic summary based on what I understand. So they monitor what's coming in and they tell us how much we can target to be available.
And this year we lowered it because what happens is if that revenue doesn't come in, that's cash we're gonna get, that we plan on getting. If we don't get that, then we have to cancel projects or, delay projects that are already in the budget. So.
These are delays
Yes.
or cancellation, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know Suzanne, there is one, for example, there is a park development plan for a small park in Northeast Salem, Hammond Park, which is next to Hammond Elementary School. It was way out in the 5th year, and with those reductions, it's actually now fallen off of the capital improvement plan. And so it basically, because we've had to delay it in our plans, it's now actually outside of the 5-year window. That's just unfortunately that it changes year to year. There's fluctuations.
Just a quick question about federal grants.
Mhm.
Are those secure? What do we know about those?
It would depend on and are you
I mean, we just all know.
Yeah,
What's happening, to some degree, but.
there are numerous, I would say there's
Secure.
numerous current issues with federal grants. There's not just one, there's 2 at least that come to mind to me. And it depends on the grant. It really just depends on where we are with that grant, where the status of the grant agreement is. So I can't give you like a uniform answer.
Right. Do you feel that some are secure though?
Yes, we are still,
aware.
I'm still aware that there looks to be federal grants coming in that we're successfully getting a hold of.
Within that budget amount? Or is that at risk, the 7 million?
No, that's not at risk. Those,
Okay, good.
yes.
Good.
Those would all have, those I should, I don't assume, but I would assume those would all have grant agreements in place already. So green, like we have a contract for those. That's great. Those
The
funds.
the 18 million in grants, the 5 grants that we received, those we will be working on the IGAs coming up, the grant agreements.
And IGA is an intergovernmental agreement. That's the acronym there.
All right, thank you.
Question on the previous slide regarding the Franzen Reservoir Liner and Cover project. I don't know if this is relevant, but I'm curious. I've seen information from California about reservoirs being covered with black balls rather than a vinyl liner or something like that float and keep it covered in that way. Has that been looked at or is it relevant? Consider?
Yeah, I don't have that information. If you want to email me, I could connect you with engineering staff that would know. I don't think Tammy knows either.
No,
But we can definitely connect you. It is, I suspect strongly that it is regulatory driven, so we are doing the project because there is rules that say we have to.
I can understand why it's necessary. I mean, I've seen ducks. That's probably not what we want in some water supply, but this seems, it was purported to be an inexpensive and easy way to do it rather than others, but I'll look into it. Thank you.
it's not. Staff reports the last council meeting. Yes.
So then like looking actually what's in the CIP and before I go into this one, I just want to make an important clarification. If a park project is fully funded, like all the funds have been allocated through the city's budget process already, it won't be in this capital improvement plan anymore. Because again, it is a financial forecasting tool. So these key projects, these are projects that are still set to receive more funding in the annual budget cycles. So if a project's fully funded, it's not gonna be listed here. So the projects that are still receiving funding as we look to deliver them in the next couple of years is the Bailey Ridge Park, which we're gonna be talking about later on the agenda. Brown Road Park, which is a neighborhood park in Northeast Salem that is set to be constructed. The development project is set to go to construction next year. Fisher Road Park, which is very similar to Brown, it's a phase 1 development of a neighborhood park in Northeast Salem. What I want to flag is really happy to share with you about Fisher Road Park is the city put in a grant application in November. That grant application was to the state, but it's actually a federal grant program and the state is just the pass-through entity. It's the Land and Water Conservation Fund. We put in an application for a little bit less than $1 million. And the state came back and said, you know, we didn't get as many applications to spend all the money that we have to give out. So would you consider revising your application to ask for more money? Because you said you could use it if you had it.
Right.
And so we increased our grant request from a little less than $1 million to $2.16 million. And then staff presented our project to a state committee that makes recommendations on awards. And that happened on Friday. The city manager joined the park planning team. The 3 of us presented the project. And on Monday, we received their ranking. This is very preliminary. Because this is not an official award announcement or anything, but we received their ranked list after they scored all the projects that they were looking at. And the city's request was the third on the list. So there's 2 projects a little slightly higher priority than us. And then of the total 10 projects on the list, they can fund 9 of them. So we're in really good shape to get those grant
Yeah,
funds.
and if you remember that price tag for that was 11 million, right? To go to like about 11.
That's the full park building.
Yeah,
We're not gonna be able to
still.
do the full, but we're gonna do,
No.
and we'll have more information for you about that as
Right.
time goes on. But that's really good. We're in a really great position to have a lot more resources for like double the resources we thought we would have for this project. And so I told Tammy this morning and she's making a change to the CIP last minute before it goes out because we need that to be represented in the document as well.
And the target for that increased amount is what? Those projects? Or
It's the Fisher, no, it's so this would be just additional funding for the Fisher Road.
Fisher Road
Park Phase
project.
1
Okay,
development
thank
project. Yes.
which target?
And then Bush's Pasture Park Shelter Improvements and Restroom Facilities is it is a project that is not, we're not working on it yet, but we're programming the funds for it. That is a bond project. It is the replacement of the restroom in the upper Oak Grove, as well as building a new picnic shelter in the lower Oak Grove. So these projects or these improvements are not, they're in different parts of the park. The lower Oak Grove near the playground behind Phillips Field, if you're familiar. So that's generally the area where that is happening. I'm not gonna talk about stormwater projects. We can circle back to that another time. But transportation projects, you know, I think that's kind of cool. There's all sorts of bicycle and pet upgrade projects. You know, I think this photo here is talking about the first bike box the city has put in, I assume is why this photo is here.
It's 2024 repair and rehabilitation for the
Great.
bond project, yeah.
Great, yeah. And then Urban Renewal Agency has their projects in there, so downtown streetscape improvements would be an example. There was some affordable housing projects in there too, it looks like. Let's see, I'm just gonna go through these because it's, you know, not necessarily SPRAP's focus area, but water, you know, there's stuff happening at Guerin Island. Yeah, that we talked about the reservoir. I don't know, I'm gonna go through the wastewater. I'm not gonna talk about wastewater. That's a pretty boring subject, in my opinion. Willow Lake is also essentially wastewater.
Come on.
Yeah, also outfall diffuser repairs. I don't know. Not as interesting as a park.
I've got a question relating to this because there's a drainage pipe that needs to be reconstructed in one of our parks over there at Brush College. There's a line from a wetlands to the stream that passes over grassy area that is continually overflowing because there's no good connection through there. Is that possible to have it addressed?
If as a CIP project, so there's two things there. It would need to be a utility project, it would have to be a public utility component. So if it's just serving the park, its only purpose, that means it's technically, we would, and this gets a little jargony, but we would consider that kind of a private utility because it's only serving the park. It's not a broader public utility serving multiple properties. So it's really, that's just on the parks. It's a park specific, it's a park project.
Yeah.
And if it's over $100,000, it would have to go through this process. If it's less than $100,000, it wouldn't show up in the CIP.
But you can submit a CIP request, go
I don't
online.
think it's gonna be that expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you
So
can
any
still,
individual.
you can submit that, the form is online. If you go to the government, you go to budget and finance, there's the capital plan there along with the CIP request. And even if those don't reach $100,000, I connect them to operations or whoever it needs to go to. So if it's not what I would believe is $100,000, and I do get usually an engineer to look at it, then I pass it along. So it's a good thing to even put that in, because then it gets it front and center in front of people.
Thank you.
And then if it's under 100,000,
Typically, I give those to operations like park operations or the utility operations folks or transportation.
Here's the big outlook. So again, I'll just put our attention to parks. The parks here is SDCs, because rate bond is also, the bond money that's going to parks is in this category. But the system development charges are here. And remember I said we're down to about $2.3 million a year. You can see that here. Questions? There we go. Yeah, and there's Hoover Park. Completed last year.
what was it?
That's Hoover Park.
Hoover.
Yes, that's our first futsal court, and
It's very cool.
project manager sitting behind me will be, I don't know if we can introduce him later. This is Tonio, one of our engineering associates. He was the project manager for that one.
I want to know when they're gonna have a league there that I can watch games.
That's great.
A new definition of football.
Yeah.
Well, can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay, so I follow social media a lot. And so yesterday on Reddit, they had a thing. Most of these parks are empty fields. Sim was really, really bad at park planning. It's not riverfront Minto Brown or sometimes Gear, the stuff they don't want at the other parks. So I try to jump on these all the time. Can I read what I wrote? Or is this the place you want me to wait? Or you're the chairman?
Excuse me, I was told.
Can I read what I answered?
Sure.
Because this is my role, right? Whereas our role is stick up for parks, right?
Yeah.
I said, I'm on the Parks Board and the city has a wonderful Parks Department. We are absolutely blessed with great planners and crews. We are one of the most park-rich cities in the United States. And then I crawled on there again. I'm on the Parks and Recreation Board, another negative reply. And believe me, there is a lot of planning. Is that what we're doing right now? And I said, the complexities of the bid. See, I learned this from our field trip. I've learned all this stuff in the meetings. The complexities of the bids and ordering equipment means there will be short-term pain for a long-term gain. They're talking about that park being closed down,
During peak season.
right?
Oh, yes.
The new riverfront play area is going to be so wonderful for children and even adults. And you can check online the absolute coolness of this future playground.
Yeah.
So many dedicated staff and workers continue to keep our city rich in lovely parks. Please check out the Cool Gear Park skate park and notice the level soccer and baseball fields nearby.
That's
So
lovely.
I want you to know
Yeah.
that when they see negative things, I try to get on there and stick up. And I've learned from this, right? So
Absolutely.
we all do that, then we're going to be united.
One thing I've noticed, just the last month, that, there's a lot of road work and, in South Salem, on South Commercial, on South Liberty, and in some of the neighborhoods. And it seems like, and I really believe in ADA compliance. And it seems like that's the vast majority of what they're doing is that. It's a lot of money, but it's something we have to do. It's too bad that we didn't do that when they first put in those sidewalks and those intersections. It's just like the Civic Center, if they had done the seismic work on it when they first built it way back in the 70s. But now it's a drain of money.
Mhm.
It's a total drain of money that we could use for parks.
Mhm.
It just seems like, I don't know if the rest of the city is like this, but there's a lot of construction work, mostly on ADA compliant intersections. And I don't know what, as I said, I don't know what it is like in North Salem or East Salem, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I'll just add if I can, that the upgrading facilities to for ADA compliance is typically a component of all our projects, capital projects, is when it comes to transportation and parks. So that's often what we're doing.
Yeah.
We might not be talking about it, but we're doing it because it's a
A lot of
requirement.
the new playground equipment at Riverfront is to make it accessible by more people,
Absolutely.
which is great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion at all on this? All right, next one is Parks, Paths and Trails Rehabilitation Program. And Aaron Kinsey is up.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Aaron Kimsey. I'm one of the assistant city engineers here at the city. My project management team is essentially tasked with delivering the parks projects that are within the bond measure. And one of those projects is a paths and trail project. So just to kind of briefly remind folks, in rough numbers, of the 300 million that was passed for the bond, about 30 million of that is parks projects. And they range between playground upgrades, equipment upgrades, the sports courts upgrades that you saw with Hoover. We have paths and trails. We have some restroom upgrades, some shelter upgrades. So it's kind of quite a few different variations.
2 dog parks.
2 dog parks, yeah. So it's been a while since we passed that measure, and we've been going through and completing projects recently. And just as a reminder here, so about 4 million of that 30 million has been identified to do repairs to paths and trails within parks. And I want to say specifically regarding existing paths that have a paved surface, whether concrete or asphalt. This money is not earmarked to build new paths that don't exist. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're thinking about this. So as you know, we have a lot of parks and we have a lot of paths in various conditions. And so what we really wanted to do was try to analyze the existing conditions of these paths. And then also similar to the CIP process, we want to be able to be transparent and prioritize these parks in a way so that we're not, spending a bunch of money in one part of town or putting all our funds towards Riverfront Park. We want to make sure that that we're spreading the wealth and that we're doing it in a kind of a data-driven way that Rob mentioned. And so we've taken a pass at the scoring criteria using some things that we learned from the CIP model. And we've presented and kind of like how we're going to score and how much each score is weighed. And we've taken that to the bond oversight committee over the past year. We got some input from them and we've modified and changed it. And I don't remember when, but we did get kind of a final stamp of approval, if you will, from the bond oversight committee saying, yeah, we agree with this methodology, go forth, prioritize, and then present. And so ultimately we have to take this to council to get their approval. And then we can start putting packages together for projects. But we wanted to make sure we got in front of you guys and that you guys kind of, say that, yeah, you've heard it and you understand it and that hopefully you agree with what we've done so far. So there are almost 4 miles of existing paths and trails throughout the entire city. Actually, there's more than that. This is a count for how many miles of paths that are in poor or very poor condition. So let's go to the next slide. So this represents all of the parks that have that or a very poor condition. And this is just pavement condition. So we recognize that this is only like one component of the scoring criteria. There's a lot of other things that can go into how we prioritize. But we did understand that like what's driving this is in a lot of ways condition. They have ADA issues, trip hazards, breaks and gaps in the different paths. And so we went out and looked at the structure of the path. What's the cracking width? What's the cracking quantity? Is there ponding water? What's the texture? Is it rough or is it smooth? So this kind of gives you an idea of how we scored based on that condition criteria. And we set up a scale and said, okay, anything over 20 is very poor. And then you have the 19 down to 15 is poor. And then if it's under 15, then it's fair. And then all the way down to like 0. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so this is really where we started to hone in on the full scoring criteria. And so with Rob's help and others, you'll see the hazard assessment is right here. So it was one of the criteria and it's weighted pretty high, 35% of this total score is towards the hazard assessment. And here you see those conditions that I referenced. So 20 or greater scores a 5 for that criteria. If you're less than 12, then that park gets a 1 for that criteria. But we also looked at park classification and function. Is it a neighborhood park? Is it a community park? Park utilization. I'll let Rob explain that because I'll probably get it messed up.
So real quick, I just want to highlight on park classification that the bond oversight committee that they really wanted to see the improvements spread out to the neighborhoods. And so that's why you're seeing a neighborhood park getting the highest score there. So I don't want to just touch on that.
That's good.
So we really get it out to the community, right? And then park utilization. So we don't know, we don't count who goes to a park. I'm working on that, but we don't like Big Brother watch who's going to our parks. So this was a GIS exercise for my spotlight last month. The city developed what we call park sheds. So we kind of mapped, what area of the city is closest to a park. And we kind of made an assumption that people, no matter what the street system looks like, you go to your closest park. And then we estimated the population in each one of these polygons we created. And then we got to understand, utilization. So basically theoretically, how many people is each park serving? So it was just a high level, rough analysis to give some data to what we're doing here.
So yeah, so a high use park would get that top score of 5. And then a park with less people surrounding it, less use would get a 1.
If you maybe recall next month, we talked specifically about Bill Regal Park having a lot of people, this one neighborhood park in southeast Salem having a ton of people that it is the closest park to them. So it would absolutely be a 5 on this one.
The other criteria that was kind of unique to this was connecting to existing transportation systems. So we looked at the transportation plans, the system plan, where there are pedestrian routes that run through a park. I think Minto is one of those.
Riverfront.
Yeah. I feel like Car Creek is one. So where we knew where the park could have an integral part of connecting or completing that trail, we wanted to be able to do that. So we kind of combined the plans to see where they overlapped so that we could provide a score for that. Relationship to other parks and coordination. So this is where we do this actually in our CIP as well, like where we can get economy of scale. Do we have another project that, like, for example, for this bond measure, and I'll show some examples here in later slides, where we have a playground improvement project. We know we're going to be there, and the paths also are on high on the list. Well, let's go ahead and tackle both of those at the same time. We got a contractor who can do the work, we can do it more efficiently, and we can impact the park once and not have to go back and forth. So those would get a higher priority on that list. Mentioned the hazard assessment, and then this last one is kind of an equity score, so it's need-based.
Maybe touch on that.
Yeah, I'll let you.
So high level, this is I would, if you know like what a difference between a skill and an index is in research, like index is comparing like different ideas to get at something. So like a consumer price index, if you will, right, is you look at lots of things to get an idea of what inflation looks like, right, or what the cost of goods are. So this is kind of like an index where we're using a lot of different demographic data, environmental data to identify what parts of the community are kind of more disadvantaged than the others. And so, this is like a need-based equity kind of a situation. And I will say the tool we're using here is also the tool we use in the CIP. It's all developed, it's really focused on transportation. It's better than nothing, but it's not specifically focused around parks. So again, with the system plan update, probably gonna wanna look at a tool that's more specific for parks. But right now we use this tool. It was developed by our transportation planners, and it's a helpful tool for now.
I'm 100% in favor of that. I think it's a great idea and it's important. But I would like to be informed if there's any concern that is ever raised on this being considered from a federal level on out from us getting grants or anything else. I know that there's some pushback on that kind of initiative in some areas. So if we ever hear of that, I'd like to know about it.
Yeah, I don't think we've heard anything because it's really our own local work here at this point. So yeah.
That shouldn't have any matter.
Well, just any questions on this? This is really the heart of why I wanted to be here today. Because this is what we've gotten the thumbs up from the Bond Oversight Committee. And we have, based on that, we've scored all of the parks that are in our city. And I'll show the list of the top 30, I think, maybe. So this is what I'm going to be presenting to council in probably May to present so that we can get their thumbs up as well and start moving towards designing projects. Yeah.
One question for the hazard assessment. On the previous slide, I was mostly focusing on like condition of the trails. Is that what hazard means, just the condition of it, or it's not like probability of an injury or something as a hazard?
Right, no, just the condition. I mean, obviously, as the condition worsens, the probability and my mind was up.
Hazard went to probability of someone getting hurt.
Yeah, we didn't drill it down to that level. It was really just kind of boots on the ground going, oh, that there's a gap here, or if they're close to trees, sometimes you can get the root damage. So we wanted we want to make sure that we have, hopefully at the end of the day, someone can ride their bike or use some roller skates or a wheelchair and not have any issues.
So you're probably gonna do that. The different ones that you plan to work on.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is the top 30. So we scored all of the parks that are even as far as like brand new parks. And then they are off the list because their condition is great. But we wanted to highlight the top 30. And based on the scoring sheet that I just showed, this is the rank of the parks. So Inglewood, based on the criteria, scored an 86 and was high on the list. And then you've got like larger parks, even Wallace and Bush. Maybe they didn't score as high because of they're not a neighborhood park because neighborhood's got the full 5 points. So they still scored high, but they didn't want, like Bob said, we wanted to make sure that the little guys could compete with the big guys. And so on and so forth. So that's a summary of how all these parks scored. I wanted to highlight this slide though, because I mentioned one of the criteria is where we have, I forget what the criteria said, but you have basically 2 projects happening at the same time. So we have path work, but then we also have, for example, Hoover, Morningside, Sumter, and Highland were all sports courts projects that had obviously have paths and trails issues as well. And those projects are complete. So we were getting ahead of ourselves with those other projects before we were able to kind of finalize this pathworks scoring and project issue. And so, but we didn't want to, like I said, we had a contractor there, we had all the means and methods to make these improvements. So we said, well, let's go ahead and do that. And we met with the bond oversight committee for all of these projects that are in green and said, hey, we got a project, we're doing this. We're gonna go to council and get approval on this scoring, but it would really make sense for us to tackle these paths and trails at the same time. And they said, yeah, it makes sense. So Hoover, Morningside, Highland, Sumter, and Livingston, we were able to complete the paths and trails portion of their work along with the other which that we were doing. McKay is highlighted in yellow because it's number 2, it's high on the list, one of the top parks. And it also has a big project happening actually this summer. Shelter, restrooms, sports fields upgrades with drainage and grading. And I think that's it, in addition to the path work. So again, we met with the bond oversight committee and said, hey, we're ahead of schedule on this McKay project, but we're kind of behind on the scoring for the paths and trails. Would you guys be okay if we used some of the 4.1 million that's identified for paths and trails? We wash that into the McKay project so that we can make those improvements as well. So again, they said, yes, go for it. And so as we build McKay this summer, we'll also be improving the paths and trails with that project. One thing I wanted to point out too is for the large parks that I have a couple asterisks by them, Minto, Riverfront, Bush, we recognized that you could spend probably $1 million or more just in those parks alone. Especially Minto, it's massive. It's got what, 26 or more miles of paths and trails. And some of them are in poor condition because of the flooding that occurs. And so we wanted to recognize that we want to do work there. We feel like it's important, but we also don't want those big parks to suck up all the funding. So we said, let's just say we're going to spend 500 on those. So 1.5 million of the 4 is going to go towards those larger projects. We could modify that if someone says that's too much or not enough. This is just our recommendation. We feel like we can get a pretty good amount of work done for that amount. And so that's where we've landed, and that's our recommendation moving forward. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
And maybe we need to go back to the slide where criteria is in that criteria, is there kind of complexity of the project?
No.
Like, some are gonna be more complex to execute than others.
Right.
And so like the investment in that is, I guess that's I would consider that concerned at some point.
Sure.
When evaluating just how big of a task these projects are
Yeah.
individually.
Yeah, we didn't really consider that. I mean, I would say,
Well, you know, so Aaron is gonna get into kind of some of the packaging of the projects.
Yeah.
So that, you know, like, yeah, we understand your point,
Yeah.
and it's not directly, it's sort of relevant, but so we're packaging some of these together. So like the first on the list here is Inglewood Park, and Chris, I think you might be able to contest this, but there's not a ton of paved paths in Inglewood Park.
It's true.
I was
And-
actually thinking, it's like, I'm trying to consider where the paved path is in Inglewood.
gravel.
Yeah, so what that project really entails is a really short section of asphalt path on the east side. It's an access point from the neighborhood.
I know where it is, okay.
A 40-foot section, and then there's some discussion going on if we're gonna do some sidewalk improvements too, because the sidewalk is technically
The sidewalk
park's responsibility.
is actually, there's like a part where it just falls apart in some places, yeah.
Yes, yeah, so we're having some discussions ongoing about, you know, what encompasses, and we're question marks are still, I think, out there on the sidewalk. Is that true?
Yeah, it will actually show on the next
Yeah.
slide.
Okay, great.
Now, have you,
Well needed attention there, good.
have you already gotten feedback from neighborhoods and associations, people that are very aware of the parks, like Chris and some of, do you get feedback or how does that happen?
Have you done outreach?
No, we haven't. I think we will do some outreach as we get ready to do these. And again, a lot of work we've done has already been a component of other projects, so they're wrapped in. I'm gonna go back to something that I heard at the bond steering committee early on. Is that there was a feeling among the members there. That there were some feelings among the members there that park staff really understood the condition of our park paths. And there was more comfortability that we knew what our issues were. As opposed to, for example, sidewalk, there's so much sidewalk in the city. It's hard to say that any one staff member hasn't really dialed in about what the issues are, so that was more, I think, for example, there's a sidewalk repair bucket in the bond where there has been much more thought about community engagement. But because there's a lot of institutional knowledge in parks about the parks, I think the bond committee had a little bit different of a feeling about it.
I've got a couple of questions, I guess. In the strategy in repairing or doing these things, is it to tear up and rebuild sections, or is it to grind down and overlay? What will be the method there?
We haven't gotten into the details on that, but what we're estimating and what we're planning on is a full demo and remove and then place back. We're not planning on doing any like further. Reason is because mostly like the asphalt trails are like 3 inches and it's just not cost effective to grind and put back. You just take it all out and start over.
Okay. Will there be short segments of this that are done, or is it going to be long strips?
Both. So that's it. That's one thing we've struggled with is, you know, you've got maybe a section of path that's in pretty bad condition, and then right next to it, it's actually okay. And then you go down another 100 feet and got another bad section.
That's why I'm asking.
And so, you know, it's like, we don't want to like do hit poppable so much in the parks, but I think when we get into our full design and start getting our complete survey, we can kind of go on a case by case basis and evaluate if, you know, I'm assuming that most of the paths and the parks are of the same like vintage. And so even though if we have like a 20-foot section that's in theory, it gets in good shape, but it could be at the end of its life. Maybe it's worth going ahead and taking out that 20 feet and then having a full, really good, brand new stretch. Because we have on the other side of that 20 feet, we have another piece that we have to repair. So we're gonna take that case by case and just be really smart about it.
Okay.
We're not gonna just do it to do it. It's gonna really kind of come down to, because of the fixed funds, we want to make sure we can address all the parks.
Sounds good. I trust you to make the best judgment, like you say. I think you've already taken care of it in the criteria as I've seen them, but there are 2 routes in Minto Brown in particular that I think are important. I think your criteria will cover it. And one of them would be in the connectivity with other transportation paths from the Courtney Bridge to River Road. The shortest route there, as you seem to have identified, says standing water during the high water times. And I presume that's going to be addressed. The other one would be going from that point, going all the way south to parking lot 4 in the shortest route on the possible there, which would be, I think, a significant part of the Ironman route, which of course would be important to reduce risk of tripping and stuff on that. Does your criteria cover those? It sounds like it would.
The ponding and of water is a tricky subject. Minto is in the floodway, and we don't really have any really good way of preventing flooding from occurring. We also have some friendly neighbors with flat tails that have made themselves homes in the park. And that has actually worsened the beavers. We have some beavers in the park that have made homes, and they've actually they've modified the flow of water. And so some areas actually flood worse than they did before.
The duck pond.
And we're not allowed to go in there and tear down their dams.
I will not let them.
No exhaust.
So I think my response to that is if going just strictly on condition, if the condition is poor, then we're gonna make some repairs. But we're not really gonna be able to address the major flooding issues. Some of those paths, in order for them to actually be useful year round, are gonna need to be elevated.
Yeah.
And so we're not allowed to bring in fill to fill up the pathway to bridge it. We have looked at bridges in some cases. It's very expensive. We've looked at boardwalks. Those are very expensive. Again, talking about the 500,000 for these larger parks. Minto, if you were to like say, we're gonna make all these paths usable year round, we did a quote for a boardwalk path and it was over $1 million, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was over $1 million.
And that was only for a
Quarter
small
mile,
stretch,
quarter
quarter
mile.
mile.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So, do you want anything to add to that?
No, I think the only thing I'd add is this, what we're presenting you today, the unit of analysis is the whole park. And so as Aaron alluded to, we're gonna get into design of the individual park projects. And that's where we're gonna get really into the detail of what we're actually fixing. And on Minto specifically, I foresee us, at least me updating you, where that ends up, like how that evolves. So yeah, the unit of analysis here is the whole park. So we're thinking about the whole park, not any one specific piece of the park at this point.
Right.
We'll get into that detail later.
Yeah, I could see Bush having the similar, because there's so much path
Yeah.
work in those two parks.
Oh, you go for it.
Okay, well, I was at West Salem, a liaison newly, to be there at the West Salem Neighborhood Association. And one of the questions was West Salem Park. They're really concerned about wanting to see that develop more. Is that part of the park system?
West Salem Park is absolutely a
I
part of the park
assume so.
system, yes, yeah.
Okay,
And
and so,
it is an older park that unfortunately lacks a lot of paved walkways. We are very aware of that in parks where there's no specific bond funds for the park. This program isn't a great match because we're not building new paved paths, we're only replacing paths.
let's see.
That said, it is high on Parks radar.
Okay.
It is high on our radar. As we try to be creative about funding, it is definitely one of the things we think about and talk about often.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay,
Oh, just, yeah, one quick one. So it seems like we're kind of already at with the scoring and the intent to identify and replace poor, very poor trails. Was there any consideration or value in like looking at some of those like moderate ones, like as far as putting an investment in them to extend their life, as far as it would be, financially advantageous to put a little bit into it and then it extends its life, or some of these, like, once it starts to deteriorate, it's got a limited lifespan and investments aren't really worth, that much.
Yeah, it's a good question. We have a similar question for all our streets around town, like, unfortunately, we're not able to, at least in the streets, transportation arena, we have not been able to go in and do
Like a triage of
triage and maintenance
costing
to
and this.
extend. It seems like, unfortunately, our method has been drive it till it completely fails, and then you go back in there and you build a new street. There's probably not the best way to do things, but that's how we, unfortunately, because of funding, that's what we've been able to do.
It's reality.
So, yeah, I think in this case, it's kind of a similar situation where we feel like if we address the poor and very poor, that, which are high on the list, that's gonna exhaust our funds, and we won't be able to have the remaining funds. Now, things could change. You know, we are getting really good bids from our contractors still. It's very competitive, as of late. This before all the oil prices have been shot up. But, you know, we could get to the end of this with some leftover money and then start looking at those fair to medium, parks and see if we have, how we wanna target those.
Yeah, I was thinking more, also in the like, if you're in a location and that like, hey, while we're here, the efficiency of. We can turn this medium one back into like good, but yes, as far as that. Ensuring the dollars go as far as they can go, but yeah, understand there's a. When you go out of poor to very poor, that's gonna rise to the top.
I do have a few more slides, so I'll scroll through those really quick. I know that you guys have a limited time. This kind of gets to what Rob was saying about parks that have, you know, some path work, but also has adjacent sidewalk that is technically it's street sidewalk, but it's adjacent to the park and it's on the park property. And so our thought is if we're there and the whole idea is to create better access within the park, we also don't want to be short-sighted and we want to make sure we can actually get people to the park. And so to your point, Inglewood actually has very little improvements on the grand scale of things. $5,000, that's just path cost. That's not like design and engineering and, you know, that's just for that path. But it has $40,000 estimated worth of improvements, for example, along this stretch, and it includes 2 ADA ramps. And actually, we're gonna add a third that doesn't exist right now. And so the question we took to the Bond Oversight Committee is, are we just gonna focus on the parks, or are we gonna be allowed to use our discretion and help fund the adjacent sidewalks to make sure that the pathways getting to the parks is accessible? And everyone said, yeah, it makes sense if we have deficient ramps, if we have deficient walks, that the park sign is right here and the park is literally right here, it would make sense to make those improvements. So we've taken the criteria, prioritize the parks, and now we're grouping them into packages. So we're trying to put together like what makes sense. We don't want a contractor driving all around town. So, okay, let's Inglewood and Clark Creek are sort of in the same area of town. Let's put those two together, get a decent sized project where we can get some good competitive bidding. And then likewise, so we've created another group here of park projects, a few more because they're not as expensive, but trying to target that same amount. Down here, Park C, or Group C is a little bit larger. It's got some West Salem parks in here. Edgewater Parkway, this one, I'll be honest with you, this is a placeholder. We have not had enough time to go in and really evaluate the condition of the Edgewater Park, but it does have some issues. And so our plan is to present this to council and say, hey, here's based on the criteria and what we're looking at, we think it makes sense to put these groups of parks together. But I will say that we want to allow a little bit of leniency here if we get into design and we go, oh gosh, there's a lot more than we thought we were going to need at Marion Square, for example, or one of the others, and we might need to bump one off or add to it, depending on how large the contracts get. So, do I have one more slide? I don't remember. Oh, this is just another slide with more groups, D and E. What I'm saying here is all of these parks combined are about 1.9 million. If we do our 500,000 towards the large parks, we're at 1.5 million. That I believe gives us a little bit of extra money left over. And so we do have, this one's not on here, but we do have some other parks that have projects, Royal Oaks and Aldrich, Brush College. Similarly, they have, we're gonna be working on design to do other improvements. And so we'll need funding from this pot of money to do their path improvements in those parks. So they're not packaged with the upper groups. So. It's a lot of information.
Yeah, and I'll just back onto that last thing. So for example, Royal Oaks Park is in the bond initiative for a new playground. That's a park in Northeast Salem. That playground is scheduled to be delivered next summer, not this summer, but next summer. And so we would then make the path repairs with that project.
Yeah, Aldridge's the same way.
What other work is occurring at Fresh College?
I believe that one has a playground.
Yes, later out, and that's a playground replacement later.
This is a mistake, but these three parks all have playground improvements.
But College is one of the 10 playgrounds for
Yeah.
replacement, but it's later in the 10-year delivery.
Yeah, it's fine. I was curious because it's not a path, but there's a huge pothole in that parking lot, right in front of the access for pedestrians.
We'll probably take care of that while we're there.
Very sweet.
Any other questions?
Yeah, that's.
Okay, not hearing any, thank you. According to what I read here, the staff would recommend that we move to recommend this approach to the city council so that we can get working on the project. And I would think that we should be moving quickly on the project because with inflation, materials, and the whole thing, we would not have as much, not the ability to do as much as we want to do.
I need a motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second motion.
Second, okay. Do we have to do it individually or as a group?
Everybody, fine.
Good. All in favor of recommending this approach to city council, indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Excellent work.
Okay. Park planning practice spotlight. Land use and development review. Rob.
Yeah, I'll try not to put anyone to sleep. So this month, I want to talk about a part of the Parks and Themes work that we don't talk about often. Raymond and I, the senior park planner, we have a standing meeting every week. It was this morning, it's Thursday mornings. And we go through and we look at all the active land use applications that are in for completeness review or in for review here at the city. So I'm talking like a subdivision, someone adding a second commercial building to their lot, all sorts of development applications. They come and we review them. And why would you guys be reviewing them? And I want to kind of fill in why we are part of this team of city staff that are reviewing these applications. And before I do that, I'm going to share some maps from our current comprehensive system plan, just to kind of introduce things here. Share my screen.
This is how you know there's less SDCs coming?
It's connected. We do find ourselves going, oh boy, there's less applications. It's been a month, there's not been a lot of applications. What's going on?
Well, it's all connected.
The first map I want to hopefully get this thing to go away. Okay, the first map I just want to highlight. I talked a lot last month about how we use kind of a system analysis to see what neighborhood, who's served by neighborhood park. And so this is that original map I presented last month that's in our system plan, identifying these gray and pinkish areas. Those are what our system plan says are served. Those areas of the community are served by a neighborhood park. And again, I also said that the analysis was innovative at the time, but it's a little out of date at this point. So just I want to kind of reintroduce that. And then we have a proposed park system map. And we have a bunch of asterisks here. Big pink asterisks are where we think the city needs neighborhood parks in the future to serve everybody, right? And the yellow ones are where we need community parks. And the blue ones are where we need urban parks. So there was one on Riverfront because I think it was 2015, don't quote me on that. The city purchased 3.6 acre addition to Riverfront Park. And so that asterisk was representing that addition to Riverfront Park, for example. So this is our proposed park system. And we also have a proposed recreational trail system map. That shows, blue lines here, are shared use paths, so for bikes and pedestrians, and those are also in our transportation plans. These two plans show the same thing. The pink lines are existing multi-use or shared use paths. You can see there's a lot of them in Minto, as Aaron mentioned. Again, when this plan was adopted by City Council in 2013, the path that we now are enjoying that connects Minto to Riverfront didn't exist, so it was a proposed path at that time. And then there are these dotted green lines all across the city. I'm gonna zoom in a little. The dotted green lines are proposed recreational trails in addition to the blue ones. Those proposed recreational trails are not in the transportation system plan. They're only in our park system plan. And they date back to the 1999 version of our park system plan. So these trails have been proposed for a long time. And so this is context to introduce my discussion today.
Are those of various types, or are they on the sides of existing streets?
Generally, these dotted green lines follow creeks. But that would be generally. Yeah, I was not here in 1999, so I don't know exactly where, what the planning process was that led to the creation of that system plan, but its legacy lives on.
So they're really not on an established throughway on the side or something like that. These would be new routes.
Yeah, generally these are off-street routes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh dear. Yes.
Through neighborhoods and people's property, and
Yeah.
that was not the case in 1990.
Well, so that I'm gonna introduce this, and again, this is, what I do is this is all high level, like this is a citywide scale, right? So we're just quickly going back to this one. If we put an asterisk here, it doesn't mean that we picked someone's property. That's what we want. It's just showing a vicinity of where we think a park is needed, right? I think that's an important clarification I want to make. And so then with that, I'm going to talk about two sections of the city's code. And that's where I'm trying to put no one to sleep. So there's a chapter, Salem Revised Code chapter 200 is titled Urban Growth Management. And so this is a development code. It's part of the city's development code. And it helps us manage growth, right? So that as the city is developing on its edges typically, we are definitely supporting that development with new city services. And then part of that chapter is a section, it's 200.075. It's called Standard for Parks. So it means that in some cases, a developer like a subdivision, they need to give us a park. Now, give is the wrong word. They need to sell us park land as part of their subdivision.
Oh, they sell it.
They sell it to us. We don't take it from them. We buy it from them. And so all those maps I kind of just showed you, without the trails are a little different. I have another map for that, but I created this map that Raymond and I use on our weekly meetings to really help us guide recommendations we make about when a subdivision, for example, may need to carve out some of its area to give us a park, and us being the city of Salem. And so I'll just maybe talk about one here. And I'm going to talk about all the colors on this map. So the gray area, see a lot of the city is gray. That's the USA, the urban services area. So those are areas of the city. It's a theoretical areas of the city that we say the city is already serving those areas with all utilities. And so if a subdivision is occurring in a gray area, we can't make them give us land for a park. That's not what the development code lets us do. It says we're basically just asking. If they give us land, it's because we're working with them and they want to give us parkland. But if a development comes in these yellow areas, we can require them to set aside parkland. And as a condition of approval of their subdivision, they have to sell us that property someday. And so the development code actually talks about how much land they have to give us. It has to do with how big their development is going to be. And so we did have a subdivision application that was approved in this area, for example, and I think because it touched on the yellow area, we were able to trigger this tool, and we asked them to identify proposed neighborhood park 15 there. And so if that subdivision moves forward, if they decide that they are going to implement their approved land use decision, they need to, at some point along the way, sell a portion of the property to the city. So that I just want to show you like how the sausage is being made in the background. This is how we typically how a new park site is identified. It's through the development process.
Is that applicable to the development on State and Corden that has that new park? Or proposed undeveloped park?
Yes,
Is that
yes.
how that happened there?
Yes, so yes, I haven't updated the dot yet here. So this is proposed neighborhood park 33, proposed urban park 4. And we ended up buying that property to be that park, right? And you can see that was a yellow area. That was not in the urban.
So that's that
area.
new area.
Yes, this is the mushroom.
So you kept the oaks, right?
Oh,
Did you
yeah.
keep the
Yes.
oaks in that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the oaks in the middle.
I know, that is so sad. I'm glad
Incredibly-
you did that.
Incredibly large development with,
I guess.
apartment buildings.
You got the
single
soccer
family.
fields there too, yeah.
Yes, yes.
It's,
Parks across the road.
I just want to flag, we will be staff will present specifically on that project next month. Hopefully, that's my plan.
at least put a fence on it, along Corden Road so that at least people can create their own paths around there with, but yeah, it's.
So even before those houses went up, you had that land, right?
Yes, we purchased that land before any of the houses were built.
Is there a correlation between population density in the development and the amount of space for park needed to be provided?
Yes, the standard is a ratio of population. So I'd have to look it up and again, so if you want
As
to.
long as I know that there is.
Yeah, so it's exactly how many housing units that development is proposing, and then we take the average number of residents and housing units in our city, and that equates to the number of people, and then that equates to the number of acres. So we do size it, it's based on the size of their development. We try to always get a little, no one wants a 1/4 acre park. So we try to, say, it's, as it stands right now, kind of the 1 acre has been our minimum.
Thank you.
How do we compare to other cities? It seems like we really have a lot of great parks. Do you ever look at other cities and what they're doing?
Yeah, I'd say this is pretty typical nowadays. I
Okay.
say what's where other cities might be doing things that we're not, that we're getting into more of, is having the developer actually develop the park before they give it to us. And so we're exploring that a little bit more. As opposed to giving us raw land that just, is now we have the residents, right? And they're calling and they do their, what's going on with this park? When are you gonna develop it? And then it's like, well, we're gonna do some improvements soon. That's what we're talking to you about next month. But yeah, it is gonna sit in line with all our other undeveloped parks, right? And wait for its turn to be developed.
It'd be interesting to see if we have more undeveloped parks than other cities.
Yeah, that would be interesting. That's a good idea. See how we compare. Okay, and now I'm gonna move on to another discussion. I'm just gonna tell you about that. So I'm gonna go back to the proposed park system. No, I'm gonna use this map. I'm gonna do my best. The other component we have, and this is part of the city's general development standards. So that's Salem Revised Code Chapter 800, if you care. The city's general development standards. So this is for everybody doing development in the city. Even parks, when we do a park development, we are subject to this chapter. There's a section about pedestrian access. And there's a relatively new requirement in that section, relatively being less than 5 years old, that says that if your development site has one of these lines going through it, you have to give us an easement for that trail. And depending on if there's a connecting facility, you have to develop that trail for
If
us.
that trail's not there. like-
Yeah, so if the trail doesn't exist at all, if there's no trail, it wouldn't, so like your development site, you have a start and an end to where that trail section crosses your site. If we've developed one of the ends, you are required to develop the trail through your development site.
Cool.
If we haven't done anything, then you at least have to give us an easement so we can put that trail in when we're ready to.
Good idea.
And so what that's leading to, it's leading to things, easements being recorded all over the city. But what I think that I'm most excited about to share with you is that this connector trail 33, this proposed river adjacent trail, we are systematically obtaining easements as those properties are redeveloped.
So that includes that Truett Cannery project and all that, right?
That is true in the Canning project, yes.
Okay,
There we go.
but we don't have a path along that side, do we? Do we right now?
No, we don't. So just south of the cannery site is a vacant piece of property. So just south of Mill Creek where it confluences with Willamette,
Right,
there's a proposed memory care facility to be developed there. So like for people with memory loss to live and to, to be cared for. That's a waterfront part, and then that's a new development. Their approved development plans have an easement, a 12-foot wide easement for the future trail.
so we will get that one at one point, yeah.
Yes, so they are not building the trail, but they are giving us the easement, so we at least have the space to build the trail in the future. Now, this is a great, I think my opinion, I think this is a good tool, but we're still maturing into it a little bit. What's not great about it is these are thick lines on a map, and we haven't done like trail feasibility analysis on any of these alignments, and so we're doing a lot of rapid assessment of where we think the trail would go in the future, and that's not a great situation. So as we can over time maybe identify key corridors and have the city do like trail feasibility studies so we can really understand where the trail's gonna go. So that we have more coordinated development. So that is where we are today. Did I put anyone to sleep?
No, but then it looks like, so that trail, long trail, it'll link up, is that Wallace Park up there? That, not Wallace, but.
Oh, this is River Road Park, yes.
Oh, that's River Road Park,
Yeah, it doesn't
yeah,
go as far as Kaiser
not
Rapids
Wall,
yet.
yeah.
I think
Not
there's been some discussion at previous meetings that there's some like residential homes there. And they may never redevelop. And so I think, again, going back to having some more specific trail analysis of where it's gonna go is gonna be important in the future.
And so a good example would be Fairview, that development. It looks like you were able to get those trails in as part of that new development, right? Yeah. It's like you were-
At Fairview, what you have there, those blue lines again are multi-use paths. And in Fairview, you're actually seeing wide sidewalks. So if you drive by Fairview Park, you'll notice on the edge of the park, all the sidewalks are at least 10 feet wide.
Yes.
That's those trails being implemented.
All right.
So the green ones are the ones that are typically on the street.
So if you want to develop, you've got it, so you're telling the developers now, you're getting that practice in. You're gonna have to do some of this community development if you want to build.
Yes, yeah. And the developer, it depends on who the developer is. Some of them are like, I understand, here's your easement. Some of them are very concerned. They have a whole set of concerns I've responded to, but it's code and we are doing it. Any other questions on this one?
Okay. Can I get that map sent to me?
Yes, and of course, this is all part of the plan that's on the city's website, but
Oh, okay.
these are standalone plans. We can definitely share these with you.
All right. Let's move on to Bailey.
More of me. Yeah. I wanna highlight Bailey Ridge Park again, because I want to make sure all the board members are aware of the project. And I'm gonna be relatively brief on this one. I'm gonna start with a graphic here. In 2022, City Council approved a formally called the master plan, but a development plan for this neighborhood park. And this neighborhood park is located in the Illinois Hills area in the far south, kind of southwest corner of the city. And it's a neighborhood park that we've owned for at least a decade, I believe. And so we went and we engaged with the immediate surrounding neighbors and we developed this concept with them. And I'm not gonna walk through everything in the concept, but I'm gonna highlight what we're doing with this project. The property includes a creek called Chambers Swale. And it runs through the site right here, and there's two A's. Creek and habitat restoration is the proposal for that area. There is a bridge crossing. We are not doing the bridge crossing, but we are thinking about the bridge crossing in the future. And there's some other park amenities like a playground, a multi-use court, but there's this path going through the park connecting a cul-de-sac to Tayside Street. And so what we are doing is we're doing the creek restoration. That's the majority of the money on the project. The vast majority of the budget is this creek restoration. And then we are also developing an asphalt path through this portion of the park, which is a former Christmas tree lot. So it's a really tightly condensed grove of Douglas fir trees. I'm gonna try to show a video. We'll see how this goes. I'm gonna show you a video taken right in this area, right where the creek comes onto the city's property. This video is a few years old. It's showing the something of concern, but it's gotten worse since this video. I took this video. Let's see, let it play here. But this is our property line. That's where the creek enters our property. And what I want to show is there's a crevasse. The creek incisors dramatically. It's a safety hazard. I'm going to play this one more
Like the
time.
one on Bush Park,
Exactly.
Yeah.
like, or not Bush, over in
Brush College.
Brush College Park.
Yes, but the scale of this one is infinitely deeper.
I wanna go see it.
Yeah. And what it's doing is, it's transporting large quantities of sediment downstream to these people's backyards. It's creating a hazard. It's, again, if I played it one more time, you might pick up, it's choked with invasive species. There's not a ton of riparian ground cover. There are some great riparian trees that these large Oregon white oaks are there. But we're really concerned about kind of the safety of this very quickly eroding creek channel and then the deposits of sediment and what that's doing downstream. So then the project, this is the site, this is a construction plan. I know it might be difficult to digest it completely, but the project is essentially, we are rolling back the banks of the creek. We have all the permitting in the world to do this with the regulatory agencies. And we're going to be putting in drop structures or rocks and woody material to slow the water down to keep the sediment from transporting downstream. And then we're going to be planting the area heavily with riparian plants. And then we're going to be temporarily irrigating those plants and maintaining that landscaping until it's to a point where those native plants can can survive on their own. So we're going to be doing a creek restoration.
Wow.
At the same time, we're going to be developing an asphalt path through the portion of the park, which is that former Christmas tree lot. We recently opened bids, and we had as Aaron mentioned, we're still going quite a bit under our engineer estimates. We're about $100,000 under what we thought the bids would be. And so the construction contract is somewhere around $554,000. So we're a little bit more than $500,000 for the creek restoration and the asphalt path. And this project is system development charges. And the phase 2 isn't scheduled yet. So we're going to do this work. And then I'm not sure when the city's going to come back to develop anything else in the park. It hasn't been scheduled yet.
Okay. Any questions?
Just a comment that that's the same kind of stream construction mitigation that needs to happen at Brush College. That's a 10, 12-foot deep crevasse now. Going down.
Now, that creek, is that a spring creek? Is it Spring Creek? Where's it coming from? Cause I'm looking at it right here. It's not Petty, John. There's another one there called Petty. No, it's.
I don't even know if it's a named creek.
It is. It's called Chambers Swale.
Oh.
To be frank with you, it is a little interesting. Where did I go? It is
Fairly seasonal.
it is almost undetectable as a channel. It's like a reel. It's really narrow. It's barely there, and then abruptly it becomes a creek on our property. And I don't know. I wasn't here when this property was acquired. I don't know if there was a known issue and city was given land with a problem on it. I don't know, but yeah, there's interest. What I'd say broadly is there seems to be some really sensitive hydrology in this area. And so it's not a fully developed watershed or space drainage basin, but there is development. There's these, bigger homes that have been developed in the area. And just enough in new impervious surfaces that it's, I think, really impacting things there.
Does it have water in it all year round?
No. Most of the year.
It's runoff, a lot of runoff.
Yeah, we've had analysis done by professionals and nothing conclusive, but it seems very interesting.
Okay.
There are areas in town that, especially in West Salem and the hills, that you can see very seasonal outbursts of water. Some of them are almost persistent year round and some become substantial periodically.
Yeah.
So, and this may be something like
And you've
that.
got that one in Bush Park too, you've got that little creek. in Bush Park.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Okay, thank you, Rob. Council liaison updates.
Well, since it's 2:30, just really quickly, I wanted to mention, since Aaron was here talking about bond projects with the parks. So that 300 million infrastructure bond that was from 2022, it gets separated out into three 100 million packages. And so we just got the bids for the second 100 million. And because it went out to bid and the bids came in, we ended up with an interest rate of 4.52, which is anyway, just under what we had anticipated or planned for. So what we get is a $3 million bond premium added on. So we'll actually be getting 103 million for that. So I just wanted to mention that. And we have our first budget committee meeting will be April 15th. Tax day. Anyone that wants to come to the first citizen budget, well, it's not the first one of the year, but the first one, we're really diving into it and we'll be meeting every week. Okay, there are also a number of, I'm not going to go into them, but Earth Day and Arbor Day activities, events going on for the remainder of the month. And it's great to see them popping up. So I really don't have anything else, just wanted to touch base.
Any questions for our counselor? Thank you very much. Board member updates. I have one, and it has to do with the resignation of Zach Hammerly. He had two neighborhood associations that and I understand there's not going to be, at the earliest, it'll be June before there's a replacement, which means July would be the first time that somebody would be coming on. I think it might be wise if those two neighborhood associations were to be taken by us. You know, everybody has two except for Alan has three. So do we have two people that would be able to take on a third?
Like this.
Morningside. And I don't have it in front of me. I was going to bring it.
Southeast Salem,
Southeast Salem?
yeah.
Okay. So either if any of you would like to volunteer one of those, or let us know later, I think it'd be important. I hope that you are all making contacts and dealing with the ones you have. Now, I have my first one tonight at Southgate. And I'm armed with a wonderful slideshow that I hope that I can say all the big words. There's an arbor, there's a one in the arborist that the last one, horta something.
Horticulture.
No, that's the easy one. It's one that I'm gonna have to practice before I go tonight.
Arboriculture or
I think so. I'm not sure, but it's whoever has that ability, I applaud them. So I'm doing that, and then my second one is next month. So I hope that you're all making contact and taking advantage of Rob's ability to give you slideshows. But if you would like to take on a third, Morningside, probably pretty easy. That's very high developed. They even have a person that's in charge of parks. who knows, when I was there a couple of years ago, who knew more about what was going on than I did, which was somewhat embarrassing, but, and the other one, I'm not sure. I don't know about, but if you'd like to take one of those, please let us know. And if nobody does, then I guess we're just gonna have to wait until we get a new person on and they'd be running behind schedule. Okay? Any other board member updates? Yes.
I just wanted to share the information that I've been in contact with the Grand Ron Reservation and their History and Resource Center to look for information on Indigenous leadership names that might be able to be suggested for new parks as they come available. And I will be sharing that information as I get it. There are a couple significant people we have in mind, but I want to get more information on what would be the appropriate process to suggest those names.
Okay, great. Definitely something pursuing as we name new parks. Anything, any other updates from anybody? I'm not gonna ask who's contacted your neighborhood association or presented yet. Leave that up to you. Okay,
I'll take a third. I'll just volunteer for that now. One of the other neighborhood associations, I don't know which one to say. Morningside or Southeast Salem, but I'll take one of them.
okay,
And just go direct to you, Rob. I got mine scheduled for next month, so yeah, I'd like to get with you with slideshows, information, whatever.
Just, it would be great if you just email me the date of your presentation so I can get it made and, for the chair, I tried to shoot about a week in advance. I almost made that. I think I sent it to you this Monday.
the only mistake you made was that you said, sent it to me on the 6th.
Oh.
And it says presentation was to be on the 6th.
Oh, there you go.
And it's not until
Yeah.
tonight,
So that was enough to fix, I hope. Yeah.
That's 6, flip it up to a 9, so.
Yeah, please give me a little bit of heads up and I'll just, what I do is I kind of customize to that neighborhood, like current
Oh, wow.
projects.
Okay.
Yeah,
And,
yeah, you list all the
Yeah.
parks and what's in your that neighborhood association and even some updates on what's happening with those parks.
Oh, that'll make us sound really intelligent.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can read all the big words, I'll come across real well. Okay, great. All right, anything else on the information reports? I am always in awe of the Mission Street Park Conservatory Board and what they do. They are so well organized and do a great job. Hey, unless there's anything else, then we are adjourned. Thank you all. So we're a long but fruitful